Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and glad to bring House Bill 1001 to you. Obviously, it passed the House and has been, of course, changes in the Senate. And of course, we've had it in Conference Committee now, and a lot of discussion. I think probably the best thing is for me to answer any questions you might have about the committee report. But obviously, it has been signed by the 4 members, and I would welcome, of course, your support.
Thank you, Representative Thompson. Questions for Representative Thompson? Representative Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Thompson, Section 253 of the bill eliminates directly elected alumni trustees. Did that provision pass either the House or the Senate?
I don't believe it was separate. I believe it was put in Conference Committee.
Okay, so it never passed the House or the Senate. What about the provision creating this tenured faculty member productivity reviews? That's Section 267 of the bill. Did that pass either the House or the Senate?
I'm pretty sure it did not pass either one, if I recall correctly.
Okay, what about Section 268 faculty governance organizations that basically says faculty governance organizations on our campuses are only advisory? Did that pass the House or the Senate?
I don't recall that either.
Okay, what about state educational institution degree program review? That's Section 269 of the bill. Think that passed either the House or the Senate?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we have a tradition of not adopting committee reports with provisions that didn't pass either House and the Senate. Oh, I guess I should ask another one. What about our making clear that the state administration is in control of the meditation room upstairs? Did that pass either the House or the Senate?
I don't recall that.
Okay. So, and then I think I may have heard something about perhaps some healthcare provisions that maybe didn't pass either House or Senate, but I don't remember the specifics on that, so I won't ask you. But I will ask the committee, if we have a rule that says we shouldn't be adopting legislation with provisions that haven't passed either the House or the Senate, I don't know why we would not be rejecting this conference committee report.
Thank you, Representative Pierce. I don't think we have a rule. I think we have a practice. I think we have a precedent. I would say that when it comes to language that has not passed either house, the first question to ask is it substantial or not? And we've worked through some of those. Not substantial makes it pretty easy, but if it is substantial, I think we go to the next step of the test. Is it timely? Is it prudent? Is there a reason for it? And then we would take action on it based on that. That would be my interpretation of the precedent and the practice of language that has not passed a house.
So if I could, Mr. Chairman, so we need to figure out whether there's a reason for these provisions. That would be the final part of the test. Did I understand that correctly?
Timely and prudent would be the...
Okay. I guess to understand that then, if I could, I need to ask a few more questions for us to work through that last prong of your test that you've articulated.
Yeah, I certainly would allow it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So who requested the language to eliminate directly elected alumni trustees at IU?
There was discussion among several people, and being a fiscal issue with billions of dollars invested in that, it became a fiscal issue real quick in terms of protecting those state resources, and that's why it's a fiscal issue.
Who were the people? You said some people talked about it. Who were the people?
Still of us in the room having discussions at a time, talking about the budget, directions to go.
Do you remember what people, conferees?
I don't recall which ones. We had several meetings over the course of several days. I don't recall the exact people.
And so did you conclude then that the alumni elected trustees were being fiscally irresponsible in their votes on the trustees?
Well, I think we concluded that at IU is different than across the state. Well, this is more putting it in line with the other state institutions, treating IU like the others. And so I think that's a reasonable thing to do, is treat it the same.
Well, why, if I could ask then, why do we not eliminate the alumni selected trustees at Purdue, another Research One institution very similar to IU?
I believe it's still the same, and I believe it's still in the case the governor will be the one that will have the majority of the appointments, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, no,
in both cases.
No, if you look at the code says that the Purdue Alumni Association gets to select three members of the Board of Trustees shall be selected by members of the Purdue Alumni Association. And then the next section says 7 of the trustees shall be appointed by the governor. So I'm wondering if we're concerned about alumni elected members being irresponsible with our tax dollars, why are we not concerned about the Purdue alumni members being selected by the Purdue Alumni Association?
I can still argue that a majority is appointed by the governor, not by the alumni.
Right. Well, that's the same case at IU. You have 6 members appointed by the governor, and you have 3 members elected by the alumni. Apparently, you have 10 members total at Purdue, and you have 3 selected by the alumni and 7 by the governor. So the governor's appointments are the controlling members of the thing. So how are we preventing fiscal irresponsibility?
They are in both cases, I believe, with the new appointments. And I believe they should be the ones in charge because, again, as you know, a very, very small percent of the alumni actually participate. I've been told a couple percent. And so I think it's wise to have a currently elected official being the one making those appointments.
Well, wouldn't you think up at Purdue, it'd be a fairly small percent that belongs to the Purdue Alumni Association, and it says that those alumni members of the Purdue Board can be selected in a manner that the Purdue Alumni Association prescribes. So do we know if they have a large percentage of people participating in their election?
You know, I'm not sure, but in both cases, the majority is appointed by the governor.
Right, as is at IU. So help me understand the difference between the Purdue board with 3 alumni selected by the Alumni Association and an IU board with 3 members elected by alumni. What's the difference? What am I missing?
I think it's just the right policy in this case to have the governor be the one to do those.
Okay, so moving on then to the other new language, never passed either house, this issue of having a tenured faculty member productivity reviews. What problem are we trying to solve there?
I think the key is that we look at how to make universities and government as a whole much more efficient. And this mindset of we did something 50 years ago and always should continue has to change because times change. To me, that's a wise thing to do is look at how to make taxpayer dollars work the best.
Okay, and who requested this provision?
That was, again, one of the many discussions we had.
Just so some people you can't remember in a room somewhere.
There was several meetings over several days.
And you can't remember who was in any of those meetings?
Oh, yes. Of course, the fiscal leaders on both
sides.
sides.
Who were they? The fiscal leaders.
Fiscal leaders.
So one of the fiscal leaders came up with the idea.
And fiscal leaders, pro tem, speakers, of course, we're all having discussions.
Okay. And did they provide any evidence that faculty are being unproductive and need to have a 5-year review to make them productive?
Well, I do know in some cases we have cases where you have some type of degree has not been awarded for years. And so you have faculty that really are not, don't have any graduates in some cases, not a lot, but some of those were brought up.
Representative Pierce, if I could ask, I want to ask a question while we're on this topic. What are some of the metrics? Is there some metrics for understanding somebody who's tenured in that 5-year span? What makes them productive? Do you know how we would grade that?
You know, I don't recall without going back and looking. I don't recall.
Okay, I'll see if I can find that. No, I'm sorry, Representative Pierce, you can continue your questioning.
Well, I won't belabor the point because we're just kind of save answers. But I mean, the thing that's disturbing about this is that we can't seem to articulate a direct problem we're solving. We can't seem to very specifically say who came up with the idea. And, you know, if we're trying to figure out what's prudent and timely, I don't think this passed the test. So I don't think we should be adopting this committee report.
Thank you. Representative Thompson, if we're going to go back to the trustees for just a minute, do you know what the budget is for IU as a whole?
You know, off the top of my head, I don't, but I would guess it's approaching, you know, $1 billion. I'm just tending to doing a guess. I don't know for sure.
And in light of, quite concerned about the fiscal forecast that we just received, is it, if this works and the governor appoints someone to the trustees and they are not operating the people the governor's appointing, would he be able to replace them with somebody? Because I'm concerned about, as we go forward with the fiscal shortfalls that we have, who is going to be steering the ship of a $1 billion organization?
In the end, it'll be the governor. I mean, he'll be the one responsible. He was elected, and he the one should be responsible.
Representative Dvorak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to clarify, I do want to belabor the point that Representative Pierce brought up. This is a topic that I think you could admit if we had a bill drafted on this, that hundreds of people would come to the Capitol to testify on, don't you think?
They might.
I guess I don't have any more questions, but Mr. Chairman, this is the reason we should not be adopting language that is not passed either house, especially substantial language like this. Essentially, you could end up with a bunch of political hacks running one of the best universities in the country into the ground. That has ramifications for the entire state that the public need to be part of the discussion on. All we've heard today is that there was a group of people who no one can remember their names, met behind closed door and decided they're going to tear apart one of the greatest universities in the country. I think that's unacceptable. I think it's a disservice to the people of the state of Indiana. I think it's a disservice to the legislative process, and it's not the way we should be doing business.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Again, I'm just going to ask Representative Thompson, if that were to happen and the state's flagship university, no offense to Purdue fans and everybody, but the state's flagship university were in some way to start coming apart at the seams, who would be responsible for that?
Ultimately, the governor,
And who's the governor responsible to?
the people of the state.
Additional questions for Representative Thompson? Seeing none, Representative Slager, do you have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the House Rule 153.1 be suspended so that the Conference Committee report for House Bill 1001 be eligible for consideration after April 15, 2025. That House Rule 155.1 be amended so that the Conference Committee report for House Bill 1001 may be provided for member distribution and held for 30 minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Norwalk, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Schmaltz.
Yes.
Representative Slager.
Yes.
Representative Baird.
I want to clarify my answer here. The flagship institution might not be IU, it might be Purdue University, but I vote aye.
Representative Karakoff.
Aye.
Representative Manning.
Yes.
Representative Olthoff.
Yes.
Representative Zimmerman.
Aye.
Representative Johnson.
No.
Representative Dvorak.
No.
And Representative Pierce.
No.
Passes 7-3.
Passes 7-3. Thank you, Representative Thompson.